Hello and welcome to another round of our espionage game over the Alps. We're continuing our session from Tuesday. Let me recap so far a little bit. We met a weird Italian person that we thought is our contact person. You know, we are a spy. And we thought they are a spy too. Turns out they are not. So, Control, the agency we are working with, is now angry with us. And might try to kill us. The Italian person we met is trying to rescue their daughter from the Germans. We also met a German person, Fräulein Wolf. That is on and off trying to kill us or love us. It's not quite clear. And together we rescued the Italian's daughter. And yeah, that's roughly where we are at. We are all in a car and trying to flee, I think, if I remember correctly. Let's see. Collie, that's the Italian person. Collie struggled to keep up, but he kept on going, bless him. Louisa and I walked side by side, a little way ahead. I am not sure that arrow is supposed to be the... Those Italian soldiers, did they hurt you? She shook her head. The Capitano was a friend of ours. He would never have allowed his men to hurt me. So you went with the captain and his soldiers willingly? They didn't use force? Louisa shook her head. He said he needed to get me out of Milan to keep me safe. That I was in danger from people who wanted information from me, Louisa explained. It was a trick. And once he had you in that castle, he told you the truth? Louisa nodded. He told me he brought me to Switzerland so that his men could question me. Instead of those brutes in Milan who normally do the interrogations. Louisa shuddered. A tiny chapel sat on a ledge overlooking the lower slopes. A few goats were chewing at the weeds that fringed its whitewashed walls. I have not taken confession in many weeks, Louisa remarked. There may be a priest inside. There's no time for that. There really wasn't. Very well. Honestly, I was afraid she'd, run away or something. Not sure what to click there now, though. We zigzagged down the slope into a rollo. Bad news, Aubrey. As we descended, I heard the baying of dogs in the distance. The police had set the hounds on our trail. I had a stick of pemmican in my pocket I'd been saving. I stashed it in a rose bush, wrapped in my socks. Then we doubled back down a nearby stream. So just throw them off our tray for a while. The path hugged the valley wall. Mountains looped on either side. Even higher mountains loomed ahead. I had decided we would head to Zurich. It was a good place to lay low and decide on a course. The Germans would be least effective within Switzerland's metropolis and had a good rail connections. It would give the collies options once they had decided which way to run. The only flaw in this plan was that Zurich was over 100 miles away, and we still had a Nazi on our tail. Suddenly Louisa exclaimed, "This is it. Do you remember the tunnel I told you about? It's here. I mean, somewhere, but I recognize the contours." And then keep your eyes peeled for it. It might give us an advantage. Mercalli nodded. Louisa only frowned as though she was thinking of something else, but whatever it was, she didn't share. The path began to descend. We fell into silence as we picked our way carefully down towards the small town of Erolo. Erolo was a nice place. It offered us a moment to breathe. We took lunch in a hotel perched at the base of one mountain, with a view across the valley to the next. We tore through our starters and soup. Louisa wiped both her hands on a napkin, then thrust one of them in my general direction. "You've still not been properly introduced. My name is Luisa Maria Alessandra Riccoli." "A pleasure. But you do not have a name, I suppose?" she persisted. "The German call you Smith. What's your first name?" "Just call me Smith. All my friends do." "I'd rather call you James, like James Mason. He's my favorite actor. He's how I think Englishmen should be." "Please excuse my daughter," Roccoli put in. "She forgets her manners sometimes." "I've noticed, and it's most refreshing." I do believe Louisa would have stuck her tongue out at me if her father had not been watching. She skewered a melon ball, then chomped it down like a noisy child. "You speak excellent English, Louisa." "It is her memory," Roccoli explained proudly. "My Louisa's memory is exceptional." "How do you say in English? Exceptional." Louisa shot him a dark look as though he had shared a great secret, but said nothing. Coffee came with slabs of chocolate, from a famous chocolatier in the Swiss town of Schwyz, allegedly. Roccoli broke his in half and put the other half on his daughter's plate. "We need to get moving soon." Louisa gulped down the rest of her coffee. It was one of those Viennese-style ones with whipped cream on top. She scooped the remaining cream out from the bottom of the cup with her finger. "Aubrey, I think the girl was raised by wolves." "I'm ready now," she said. We left the hotel and began to walk through the town. If Louisa's recollection of the secret tunnel out of Erolo was correct, then my guess for an entrance was somewhere in the military fort at the foot of the Goddard Pass. The fort was a granite-roofed block, sunk into the ground, with a wide trench encircling it. It must have filled up with snow for 6 months of every year and buried the place completely. "If there really is a tunnel," Louisa hissed, as we crouched in a stand of bushes by the edge of the trench, "then how are we going to get in it?" "I do not like tunnels," Roccoli added, unhelpfully. I scouted the perimeter. Creeping through some bushes, I reached the edge of the trench and peered down. The drop was about 6 feet. The trench ran in 2 directions, back towards the fort and away from it, sloping down towards the dark, arched opening. A tunnel, just as Louisa had said. I waited and watched. No soldiers came in or out of the tunnel. It seemed likely it was never used. A scuffle in the bushes announced the arrival of Louisa. "It's quite a drop," she observed, sticking her head out over the edge. "I'll go first." The drop down to the grass was perhaps 6 feet. I slid myself over the edge, clinging on with my fingers, until finally I dropped. "Now you, Louisa. It's easy." "Were you, perhaps?" she hissed back. "You're taller than me." "Come on, nothing to worry about," she grumbled. Her face disappeared, and then a pair of shoes appeared over the edge of the trench. As soon as her legs were in reach, I grabbed them. "Now you let go," I told her, through a mouthful of skirt. "No," she called down, "because if I let go I will fall." "Trust me, I have you." She let go, but her balance was all off. Or was it mine? We fell backwards together onto the grass. Louisa cried out, then laughed with embarrassment. We both did. "Better luck next time, eh?" I said as I rose and offered her my hand. We looked up towards the edge, to where the collie wasn't. "He wasn't with you when you came to find me?" "No," she cupped her hands to her mouth. "Papa?" "Nothing." "Maybe he lost sight of us," Louisa suggested. "Then I'm afraid he's on his own." "I don't think so," she crossed her arms. "I'm not going without him." "You may have to." "This is unfair. If you've just taken the train out of Arolo." It was the sound of footsteps that settled the argument. Someone was coming. I grabbed Louisa's hand and hauled her away down the tunnel. The tunnel was narrow and dark and disappeared under the mountain. That's a strong perspective, I love it. The darkness of the tunnel beckoned, but Louisa stood by the entrance, refusing to budge. "Now we go back for him." "He's a grown man, Louisa. He'll be all right." "My papa may be old, but he's no spy," she shot back. "He might have been captured by the Swiss. He's not a good runner, as you might have observed." We were both whispering, our hissed words echoing away down the dark tunnel in front of us. "It isn't your father the Fräulein is after." I motioned towards the tunnel. "We are ahead of Wolf for now. Let's go to Göschnen and keep it away." She paused, still looking back at the tunnel mouth, hoping Rocolli would appear. I didn't. She nodded unhappily. I took her arm in the semi-darkness. "Come on, this way. We'll be in Göschnen in a few hours. And your father will be there, I promise." The tunnel seemed to run for miles. With no electric lighting, it was pitch dark, narrow enough that we had to walk single file. I led the way. Are there rats down there? Louisa asked. There must be rats. Rats can't hurt you. Then you've never seen a Milano rat, Louisa replied. A Milano rat can't kill a fox. We walked on, underground, in darkness. Time and distance telescope outwards. Intimacy is easy. Your father seems devoted to you. Louisa nodded, thought for a moment. Do you have any children, Smith? None that I know of. She seemed confused, then a flash of disdain before she turned her head away. I stopped. We had reached the branch. Identical tunnels disappeared into darkness in both directions. Well, we go left now, Louisa said. Rightio. We went left. A glimmer of light, but it wasn't the exit. It was coming from the arc lamp. It was coming from the arc lamps strung along the length of the railway line. Our secret passage had opened out into the wider darkness of the Gotthard tunnel. You saw something in Milan, something you weren't supposed to see. I paused to see if she would confirm my suspicions, but she said nothing. I tried again. The Italian soldiers, they wanted you to tell them about it. She thought for a long time, then nodded. It's a blueprint for a compact radio transmitter. Small enough to fit in a suitcase. The resistance got it from the Russians. A radio inside a suitcase, Aubrey, can you imagine? If I had one of those, I could have radioed control from Riva San Vital, known straight away that Vercoli wasn't my contact. I'd have never met this girl at all. And how did the soldiers know about your memory? It's no secret, Louisa laughed sadly. My father boasts about it to everyone who comes into the restaurant. He used to make me recite the wine list when I was tiny. I only saw it then, Aubrey. How lonely it was to be Louisa Vercoli. The tunnel filled with a roar. We pressed ourselves against the stone wall as a train thundered past. The echoes battered us in waves. Thank heavens the train was electric. If it had been a steamer, we might have been poached. Not much further, Louisa said. I'm not going to let anything happen to you, Louisa. She scoffed gently at my chivalry. What would you call this then? A stroll in the hills? We walked on, now with a kind of sunlight ahead, drawing us along towards the end of the tunnel. The tunnel came out at Göschenen. We disembarked at Göschenen. As we walked across the platform, a police whistle shrieked behind us, and we heard the thudding of heavy boots. "Stop right there!" shouted an officious voice. police weren't in pursuit of me, but of a vagabond who'd snatched the lady's purse. I tackled him, putting my rugby skills to good use. The policeman shook me by the hand and bid me good day. Grazie al cielo, Collie exclaimed, raising to clasp his daughter's hands and kiss her on both cheeks before nodding to me. I am very glad you made it. You've caught the sun, Louisa remarked to her father. I thought the train went through a tunnel. 6 to 7 minutes only. Since then I have had a gelato, a coffee and a little siesta outside this charming cafe. We should get out of sight. Act 3, the chase. The mood fell south pretty quickly as I hustled them away. But honestly, sitting in broad daylight right by the only rail line into town, it was as if he wanted the Germans to catch him. Choo-choo. After all our adventures, Aubrey, the comfort of the Hotel Gotthard seemed too good to be true. The hotel bar was filled with millionaires and debutantes. From the window we had a view over the cars assembling for the Göschenen to Interlaken road race. No one here seemed to have a care in the world. There's a train to Erstfeld in a few hours, I remarked. From there it's an hour more to Zurich. We are almost there. And will Zurich be safe? Collie begged. I do not know if you can return to Italy. As safe as anywhere can be these days. Good, said Collie. But Smith, how can I ever repay you for what you've done for us? Perhaps your daughter could tell me about that radio transmitter? That was why I'd helped them after all. Perhaps she would consider recalling a few details of those plans before we part ways. How's that again? She replied with a sigh. I'm still thinking about it. You can trust me, Louisa. No, that's very unconvincing, she replied. If what I know is important, as you say, should I really hand it over to the British government just like that? Just because some handsome Englishman rescues me from a castle? Verbatim, Aubrey, verbatim. We need to get some tickets, Louisa declared, rising to her feet. I'll go. I'll come with you. My bodyguard, she smiled. Very well. She took my arm. I will stay right here, Primo asserted, looking supremely comfortable where he was. We set off for the station. I confess I had a little spring in my step. The girl had called me handsome. I know your plan is to go to Zurich, Louisa began once we were walking, but I've seen a map of this region. I think there are some better options. Is this another of your secret tunnels? An angry silence. I tried mollifying her a little. Your trick finding us the tunnel in Erolo was very helpful, I said, trying to sound encouraging. I don't think I ever thanked you for that at the time, but I'm saying it now, alright? She hurried around in front of me and shoved me in the chest. Why do you insist on talking to me like a child? She demanded. I am 23 years old. You aren't even so much older than me. 23? I had assumed younger. Based on precisely this kind of behavior, in fact. I am 31. Bastardo! She threw the inside at me with a wave of her hand. Then, just like that, she stormed away. I should have gone after her to apologize, but I didn't. I was damn well going to get the ticket so we could get on the train and get out of danger. And I had just about reached the station when I heard it. A scream, then the roar of a car engine. I raced back down the street. A few people were crouched either side of something laying on the side of the road. The picture was clear now at a glance. Wolf grabbing Louisa, Macaulay trying to stop her, Wolf running him over with her car. This man's name is Primo Vercolo. See, he is well cared for. Of course, but where are you? I was already gone. There was not a moment to lose. I was behind the wheel of a racing car in moments. Damn car wouldn't start, Aubrey. The engine coughed like a geriatric, turned over and went back to sleep. I had to get it going. The Fräulein was getting further away by the minute. Shit, I was spotted as I stole the car outside of the hotel. As I fiddled with the wires, the car's owner wandered out of the hotel, intrigued by the hubbub, and caught a glimpse of me. Fortunately, I managed to get the engine roaring just in time and left him choking on dust. I've quite cleared my tracks so far, it's pretty good. Police report. A wealthy gentleman came to us in tears to report our suspect has stolen his favorite car. Another stolen car. Can this man be stopped? Luckily, it's a very distinctive vehicle. Furka Pass. In a hot-wired Maserati souped up by some harebrained Swiss mechanic under orders from a millionaire idiot. The Fräulein drove fast, but I could drive faster. So long as the car didn't flip. These racing cars were known for rolling, and if you cracked your head, well, then that was that. The car tore through the landscape like a red bullet, piercing the air with the steel roar of its engine, death on wheels. I tore along the mountain road at 100 miles an hour, and God forbid anyone who got in my way. So fast. God did not forbid the goat. I swerved to avoid it. That was my mistake. If I'd run straight through it, perhaps the Maserati would have survived. The car flew across to the far edge of the road. I shut my eyes and pumped the brake. The car screamed but didn't stop. We reached the far edge of the road. A moment later, it was in mid-air. I found myself wondering if the goat had survived. I blacked out. I heard a woman's voice nearby, but my eyes weren't working properly yet. Who's there? Please, be slow, the woman replied, moving closer to the bed. A wet towel pressed at my brow. Here, there. It stung. You're hurt, but you will be alright, I think. I passed out again. Newspaper. Withdraw from Poland or face war, Chamberlain warns Germans. In a speech to the House of Commons last night, Britain's Prime Minister launched a scathing attack on Germany. He warned that if German troops were not withdrawn from Poland, Britain would honour its pledges to its Polish ally and initiate military action against Germany. I was in Meiringen, 30 miles from where I had crashed. I'd been scraped up off the roadside and taken to the Hotel Leopold to recover. Miraculously, I had no broken bones. Cuts, scrapes, bruises. It hurt here and there and just about everywhere. I checked the ranks of my teeth, but there were no deserters. I was warm Aubrey, content. Eating Zopf with honey on the tray in bed and sipping coffee. I searched my memory for something. I thought I'd overlooked some small yet crucial important detail. And then I remembered her colleague, Louisa, the Fräulein. I had been out of action for at least a day, and I'd lost all three of them. "10 minutes beyond Meiringen, the road forks into two. One road leads to Zurich in Germany, the other to Bern, and eventually to France. It would be foolish to guess which roads I'd taken. I needed more information. I approached the hotel concierge. I told him I was looking for two women, and he raised an eyebrow at me. "Two, sir?" "And they are a pair of swindlers who cheated me at cards." "Then I am quite sure they did not come here, sir," the man replied. "We do not host card cheats at the Leopold." He moved away, wiping his hands as he went. I prowled the hotel grounds. I went to talk to the patrons of the hotel bar. Not that I really expected the Fräulein would have stopped in for a drink, not really her style. I bought a round of drinks for everyone. Shit. Hardly subtle, but speed was of the essence. Nobody I spoke to knew anything about a German woman and an Italian girl, however. I drank up and paid my bill. The concierge grew suspicious of me. He called the police. Naturally, I tried to run. I didn't get far. The Polizei were waiting for me, all truncheons and nasty smiles. Two of them got me under each arm, and I was dragged like so many potatoes to a nearby beer house. In the dark corner, a cigarette flared. "You again," spat the voice of my concealed friend. "Must you insist on being the worst spy we have?" I'll try harder, shall I? You might. You might try harder. Another tap of ash. Maybe I should let my lot do to you whatever it is I do to spies, and control can send someone better to finish off whatever it is you think you're doing. They didn't wait for me to reply. Give me something I can use. A long, stagnant pause. I don't have time for this now. They're getting away. Who? The German woman? Has she got the Italian girl with her? Are you suggesting you know where she is? We might. Then by all heaven, tell me. The cigarette flared. They were seen heading for Interlaken. You've been watching them? You could pick them up. Not without blowing our cover. We have a longer game to play than yours. The cigarette flares. Well, you'd better run along, hadn't you, old man? Okay. Interlaken. A post bus ran to Interlaken daily. The boiling over of tensions in Europe seems to have made even the Swiss twitchy. The harmless little post bus was stopped at a roadblock and searched by a soldier who asked to see my papers. I patted my pockets. My fake papers had gone missing in the last few days' chaos. With no other option, I dived into the pile of letters and parcels at the back of the post bus. Fortunately, I wasn't spotted. The road was dreadfully scenic, Aubrey. The sort of rude poets would lose their marbles trying to describe. But I won't bother. I didn't see any of it. The sun set across the mountains in a whiskey-coloured blaze, and I didn't drink a drop of it. One question consumed me. If Louisa truly had memorized these secret radio transmitter blueprints, then how long will then how long would it take the Freund to get the details out of her? These were my thoughts as I tapped my fingers and willed the post bus to go faster. The police are searching for me. We found the stolen car, or at least what remained of it. Just burning wreckage in the bottom of a ditch. No sign of the suspect, though. Against the odds, he must have somehow escaped with his life. Our suspect bought a round of rings at the Meiringen Hotel, asking after a German woman and an Italian girl. It's a fair Fräulein. She's in danger. I must hurry. Worry not, my dear. I arrived into Interlaken in darkness and checked into the first hotel I found. I was exhausted, still reeling from the crash on the Furka Pass. Once in the room, I collapsed on the bed in a heap. Barely even kicked off my shoes. My eyes closed, and all I could see was Primo Vercali's face. Newspaper. Europe at war. Britain and France declare war on Germany. Honoring the treaty with Poland, France and Great Britain have declared war against Germany. In a speech given today, British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain vowed that Britain and its allies would prevail against the regime characterized by brute force, bad faith, injustice, oppression and persecution. I ate quickly, then headed over to the town's covered market. If Wolf had come through Interlaken, she may have stocked up on supplies. After a few false starts, I struck gold at the stall of an old boot seller. A tall blonde woman and a brown-haired girl, say. Perhaps you mean the nurse. She came through here with her ward yesterday. They were going to Lauterbrunnen, just south of here. What's in Lauterbrunnen? Raising mountain air, the doctor seemed to think it would help with the girl's, mental condition. What did they buy? Crampons for snow climbing. Snow climbing? Where on earth are they going? I continued south on foot. Lauterbrunnen was buried in a deep valley. Its streets boomed with the endless cries of the waterfalls plunging down the mountains on either side. At the very bottom of this place is a tavern with a dark corner. And in this corner were the drooping mustache of Herr Dr. Schweiger, a broken man. I can't help but admire the Fräulein's handiwork. To get such a man with a nice car and excellent profession so efficiently, so ruthlessly. They're Japanese chefs, Aubrey, who can debone a mackerel with a few deft flicks of a knife. It's a shame they don't allow women to do it, otherwise she might have found her true calling. I sat down opposite of him. He looked up sharply. A flash of hope died on his face as soon as it appeared. Oh, it's you. Awfully sorry about your car, Schweiger. My car? Oh, no matter. I'm sure you needed it. You see, Aubrey? A broken man. She's abandoned you and taken Louisa with her? Herr Schweiger nodded. She just disappeared, he replied like a lost child. I went to the bar to get her a gin and tonic. That's all I did. And when I came back... when you came back, she was gone. He nodded. He had it bad, Aubrey. Whatever Wolf had done to him in the last 48 hours, she had done it exceptionally well. And what about you? He asked, seeming to actually see me for the first time. You hurt your head? It's nothing. You should get it probably looked at. You might have a concussion. You can still redeem yourself. Help me find Louisa. I don't care about Louisa, he replied. But if you know where Emmanuel is, son, I'll come with you. Emmanuel. Honestly, Aubrey, what a chump. I'm sorry, I forgot to mute my mic for a while. Huffing. Jungfraujoch. There is only one road out of Lauterbrunnen, and that was up. We sat facing each other on either side of the train car. Schweiger looked ill, sweating despite the icy mountain air. I caught my eyes on him. "I see you judging me," he growled. "But I love her, I tell you. Call me a fool if you like, but I do." "But surely you know she's a Nazi." "Yes, but what of it? The Nazis are reuniting our German peoples. We Austrians are proud to be part of the German Reich. Is it a crime to be a patriot?" "Yes, when patriotism leads to tyranny and murder." Yes, we have strong leaders now, but they are needed," Schweiger replied dismissively, "to restore our way of life and defend it from those who wish to destroy it." He was nodding, like a boy proudly telling his father what he'd learned in school that day. "Damn, man, must you blindly accept everything your government tells you?" "I could ask the same question of you, Englishman. My government doesn't go around murdering its critics." I shouldn't have bothered arguing, Aubrey. The way of thinking cannot be defeated by reasoned argument. It speaks only the language of violence and power. Nazism is a vicious cancer. Our only course is to sharpen our knives and cut it out before it spreads. Act 4. Checkmate. We rode the elevator up to the peak of the mountain in silence. At the top, I threw open the cage door and stepped out onto a narrow gantry. I tell you, Aubrey, it was the roof of the world. The view below was an enormous wide void, a vast valley spanned by a frozen river of compacted ice. The Alps glacier. I turned to look at the brick building behind me. It was topped with a telescope dome, some kind of observatory. There was no way the Fräulein could have doubled back, and nowhere for her to hide. "She's in sight?" Schweiger asked. "She must be." I took the Mauser from my pocket. "If you hurt her, I will throw you over the balcony." I ignored him and pushed my way inside the observatory. I headed for the door. Entering the observatory was like stepping into the guts of a gigantic metal beast. Cables and pipes snaked from the floor to ceiling. Workbenches were laid out with brass spheres, mesh boxes, mechanical contraptions, spinning discs. Charts and star maps plastered the walls. I looked under the tables first. Nothing. There was no one here. Schweiger tore through the room in a fury. I thought he might start pulling machines from the walls to see if the Fräulein was hiding behind any of them. "You said she would be here," he yelled. "She has to be here." There was a trap in the floor. Padlock shut. I cast about for a key but didn't see one. "There's a room above. Try up there." Schweiger dashed up the stairs. With him out of the way, I could look around properly. A storage locker leaned against one wall. I pulled it open, but there was nobody stashed inside, just some old skis, gloves and boots. At the far end, a door led onto a narrow balcony. I opened the glassy doors, stepped outside and caught my balance quickly. I was standing at the head of a grey long table. Mountains with misty heads of hair were seated on either side. The Alps glacier was our tablecloth, sheer white and freshly pressed. Two black ants were crawling slowly across it, one in front, the other behind. They were heading towards a small, dark notch at the base of one of the mountains. They reached it and disappeared. Forgive the poetry, Aubrey, but it was really big. You really had to be there. I went back inside. I went back over to the storage locker. What else could I do, Aubrey? Schweiger was distracted. There was no time to lose. I strapped on the skis and launched myself over the balcony. A moment later, I was tucking down the slope below. The snow was firm, not fresh, and I soon picked up a set of ski tracks to follow. There were sledge tracks weaving in and out around them. Then, up ahead, I caught sight of the entrance of a military bunker, carved into the base of a mountain. Some kind of storage facility, perhaps? Part of Switzerland's vast network of alpine defenses. There didn't seem to be any way to approach the bunker except head-on. If there were guards watching, I would have to do some pretty sharp skiing to stay alive, especially if they had a mounted gun. Look at the little goat. I approached the heavy steel door of the bunker. The off-white paint, much of it peeled and chipped, appeared yellow against the snow. I stashed the skis out of sight and hunkered down, covering myself in snow. I waited like a leopard in the long grass. Perhaps a soldier would come out to relieve himself, or to scout the slope. Perhaps the Fräulein herself, having delivered Louisa, would be returning to whichever hole she had slithered out of. An hour went by, no change. The cold was now seeping through my clothes. I had plenty of time to take in the scenery. I was, I realized, in the very heart of the Alps, alone with only a pair of borrowed skis. There was only one thing I could do. I rose up out of the snow. I paced over to the door. I knocked on it. I knew you'd come, she smiled. Also, I had been hoping you would rescue me, not get captured yourself. Despite her tone, I could see she was tired and scared. I wanted to comfort her, but my wrists were tied to a chair as well, so there wasn't much I could do to help. I wondered if you'd have some idea of the layout of this place. You want me to find a way out? Isn't that your job? Yes, but I thought I'd give you a turn at it. She groaned, and I could see her hands straining at the ropes, trying to offer a dismissive wave. Louisa and I were tied up, side by side, to wooden chairs. They looked like they'd come from a prep school's exam hall. We were deep inside the bunker, in an office of some kind. And the bunker was large, dug into the underbelly of the mountain. Perhaps it was due to become larger. I'd seen dynamite stacked near the outer door. Has the Fräulein been interrogating you? Louisa nodded. She's pretending to be my friend now, she remarked, rolling her eyes, as if she thinks I've forgotten about her driving a car over my father. Her head came up sharply. But, Papa... is waiting for us in Zurich. Are you sure? He studied my face and looked away. You don't know, do you? You've been too busy running after me. Our conversation was cut short. The door opened, and there was the Fräulein. that little Mauser in her hand. Was she alone? I wondered. Perhaps this place was barely staffed. I had seen 2 soldiers, no more. Good odds. She looked tired, shadows under her eyes, pale skin. She even seemed a little out of breath. Do you need to sit down, Fräulein? You can have my seat. She didn't laugh, only scowled. This Fräulein was far less fun than the old one, Aubrey. Tell me, Mr. Smith, do you play chess? That's a game with a ball, isn't it? A droll. I suppose you're one of those card players, she replied with contempt. From a locker at the back of the office, she produced an old board and a set of heavy metal pieces. She put over a chair and set it down to use as a table. You and I will play. If I win, I will shoot the girl. If you win, then we will play again. She set her gun down and began laying out the chess pieces. Or she can give me the information I require. You're afraid I'll win. That's why the stakes are so one-sided. That gave her a pause. She took a seat on her side of the board. Then let's say you win. What would you want for it? I want you to defect to my side. Darling, that sounds marvelous, but as handsome as you are, I'm not the kind of woman who betrays her country for a man. You will play to my terms. A pawn stepped out onto the board with a slight magnetic click, like the sound of a safety catch being removed. White king's pawn to the center. Your move, Sir Smith. The gold one. Move that. The Fräulein hooted with laughter. Smith! Louisa quivered, suddenly afraid. Please tell me you know what the pieces are called. Don't be too hard on him, the Fräulein said. She pulled my pawn forward. He can't even see the board properly from the chair. King's bishop, 2 knights file, Smith. Louisa strained at the ropes that held her wrists. She couldn't see the board either. At least let Louisa see the board, Fräulein. Why? There's nothing to see yet. Now play. Jumps a knight on the left there. You must be wondering how we acquired this bunker, Wolf remarked casually, leaning back in her chair while she awaited my move. From the redoubtable Swiss army, no less. They built these places to defend themselves against us. If you're hoping Louisa will talk, she'll need to see how badly I'm doing. Fräulein considered this. Alright, you can watch your champion fail. Pulling a knife from her belt, Wolf slit the ropes around Louisa's wrists. Then she leaned down, hovering the knife point in Louisa's face. But no talking. Louisa gave a tiny nod. Wolf returned to her chair. Still your move, Smith. Bishop, do something useful with it. I would use this one. Rubbing her wrists, Louisa approached the board. Her face quickly became a picture of horror. I know, the Fräulein accused. He's simply useless, isn't he? Her knight leapt out into the middle of the board. Louisa clicked her tongue, but then, almost too quickly to notice, she held up her little finger, wiggled it, and looked sharply away. A moment later, she did it again. little finger. Bring out another pawn. Let's use this one, shall we? Louisa was flashing my sudden, unexpected smile. The Fräulein thought for a moment. She advanced another pawn. Louisa frowned. It was too generous of the Swiss, this gift of theirs, don't you think? Wolf remarked. They left it undefended, but it's well built, excellently positioned. Your left flank is exposed, by the way. Is that so? Oh yes, she beamed. You might be wondering what good a base in the Alps is. Wolf rolled a captured piece between her fingers. You see, it's a good place for a back door. She pointed down, significantly. He stifled a yawn. Your move. Bring on my rook. The Fräulein played the move for me. Louisa nodded slightly. It must have been a good move. The Fräulein paused, then chose a move. Her bishop took mine. Superior tactics will always win the day. Knight. Rook, sideways. We played the move. Louisa shook her head ferociously, but it was too late to take it back. The Fräulein fell silent. White's backline was clear enough to castle. Wolf brought her rook into play. I could see Louisa was thinking quickly, then she quickly held up two fingers, crossed. Rook takes bishop. The Fräulein played the move for me. Chappelle, Louisa cursed softly. The Fräulein merely glanced down before playing again. Her knight took mine. You will find you cannot win against an overwhelming force. Rook takes knight. You certain? The Fräulein responded quickly. She developed another pawn. Things were not going well. Louisa's eyes flicked across the board. She wiggled her finger again. Jumps the knight on the left there. You sure? And I thought you cared for the girl. Why a while then? Louisa winced. The response was almost instant. Her bishop retreated. Louisa was silent. Then she held one hand up to the top of her head, fingers pointing upwards. Fräulein peered around, and Louisa quickly pretended to be adjusting her hair. Bring on my queen. Put her somewhere sensible. I like that. She can go here. Very gently, Louisa nodded. The Fräulein thought for a moment. Her rook advanced. Louisa's eyes scanned the ranks and fires of the board. We're going to blow tunnels, Smith. Isn't that marvelous? A tunnel all the way to Zurich. Then we'll pour down into Switzerland by the tens of thousands. We'll capture the castle, so to speak. Remarkable. We've been shipping dynamite here for nearly 10 years, you know. Some quietly stolen from the works they did building the charming railway through the Jungfraujoch. Other places too. She smiled. What's next? Bishop, do something useful with it. She played the move. Louisa was watching the board intently. The Fräulein paused, then chose a move. Her knight took mine. We will crush you. In 4 moves, in 24, it doesn't matter. The outcome is inevitable. Inevitable. Queen takes bishop. Fräulein played the move for me. The Fräulein fell silent. She advanced another pawn. Louisa narrowed her eyes. She was clearly running out of hand gestures as she reached both hands in front of her and pretended to ride a horse. Jumps the knight on the left there. He played the move. Louisa allowed herself another quick smile. Wolf was intent on the board now. Her bishop took mine. Rook takes knight. The Fräulein played the move for me. Wolf was concentrating hard. Her castle slid sideways. Louisa nodded with satisfaction. She stood up tall and straight on tiptoe for a moment. Queen, attack. Played the move. Louisa glared at me. The Fräulein thought for a moment. Her knight took mine. Bring out another pawn. The Fräulein played the move for me. Louisa narrowed her eyes. You probably saw dynamite near the gate on your way in. I hope the men weren't being so rough with you that you didn't get to see. You never get away with what you're doing here. Who'll stop us? The Swiss army? All 8 of them? She shrugged. There's not enough dynamite to blow a path all the way to Zurich. Not yet. But progress marches forwards. It doesn't turn its back. But the Fräulein had turned her back on Louisa. Carefully, silently, the Italian woman had lifted the little Mauser from where the Fräulein had put it down. Now play. Rook, sideways. She played the move. The Fräulein fell silent. Eyes screeched shut, Louisa swung as hard as she could. It was glorious. The Mauser butt connected with Wolf's skull with a sickening crack. The Fräulein was knocked sprawling across the board. The chair appended. Pieces scattered in all directions. That's for Papa, Louisa hissed. Black queen takes white queen, I remarked. Time for the black knight to get moving, I think. Frisking the prone Fräulein, Louisa located her knife and sliced me loose. Gone was the distracted girl I'd rescued in Bellinzona. She was rescuing me now. A moment later, we were out of the door. I took the white queen with me as we ran. For old time's sake, Aubrey. It wasn't hard to scuttle quietly past the guard without being spotted. The Germans seemed to run the place with a skeleton staff. We reached the front chamber of the bunker. On the wall beside the outer door was a large metal lever labeled Achtung. She'll be back on her feet soon, I said, looking back down the corridor. So let's go, Louisa replied, throwing down the lever. The door began to rise, accompanied by an ear-splitting grinding of gears that echoed around the walls. I'll hear that, Louisa shouted. She was all ready to crawl under the half-open gate. Let's go! I took the Mauser from Louisa and turned grimly to await the guards. Hi, Eric. You made it. Over here, Louisa called out. She had thrown back a tarpaulin to reveal a group of rust bucket machines on threads lined up in a corner. Louisa caught my blank expression. Snowmobiles, she exclaimed. My uncle repairs them in his shop. Quick! Do you know how to drive one? Yes! She jumped into the front seat. Get on! I grasped her waist as she started the engine, and we lurched forward onto the ice. We roared away from the bunker at a decent 8 miles an hour. Oh, and one other thing, Aubrey. Tell Control there was just enough dynamite by the gate, and just enough time to leave the Fräulein a little parting gift. Did you sleep well, Eric? The sun was high in the sky. It seared down through icy clear air, turning the glacier to a blinding lake of light. And we were chuffing along on a machine made out of biscuit tins and rubber piping. She was steering intently to avoid the shrapnel from the explosion. One strike would have been enough to finish us. The snowmobile would have flipped through the air like a roller coaster car. But then we were through, and out onto the open ice. Having fun? I shouted. I've been on smoother dates, she cried back, but the view makes up for it. Then I felt Louisa stiffen. There's someone coming after us. She must have seen them in the mirror attached to the snow shield. I twisted in my seat to look. On a snowmobile? I asked. If they were driving, they'd be no faster than us. Skis. Well, take it slowly today then, when you didn't sleep well, Eric. I didn't sleep well either. We were running out of glacier. Louisa swerved to a halt on the southern edge of the valley. We clambered, bandy-legged, from the machine. A mountain towered above us. That's the Eggleshorn, Louisa said. There's a cable car stop just behind the peak. They installed the lines last year, apparently. We can ride it down into the valley on the other side. I didn't need to ask how she knew. Honestly, Aubrey, that girl. I was beginning to wonder if she wasn't the best partner in the field an agent could have. I cast a look back at the swooping, dark figure behind. It was closing on us fast. We made for the cable car stop at the Eggleshorn. The climb up the Eggleshorn was much harder than I had anticipated. Perhaps it was our general fatigue. I was still recovering from my crash. Louisa was exhausted from 2 days of stress and panic, and neither of us were dressed for the cold or for the climb. I looked back. The figure following us had paused beside our snowmobile. It seemed to crouch low as though catching our scent. Then the figure resumed its approach. A few moments later, the snowmobile burst into smoke and flame. Was it the snowmobile? Louisa asked. Why did she do that? Let's just keep going, I told him. She's trying to scare us. And she needn't have bothered. I'm already scared, Louisa said. I could see that Wolf was struggling, but she was determined. Maybe she was thinking the same about us. The slope was turning to loose rock and shell. We had to scramble our way up, almost on all fours. Some people do this for fun, can you believe? I know, mad Englishmen like you, on holiday. Up and up, Aubrey, up and up. The peak of the Eggleshorn was almost a needle point. The cable car station was built a little way down its southern slope. That's the worst of it over. Louisa looked surprised, but didn't argue. We scrambled quickly down the shale and scree, Then fell through some bushes and emerged beside the station. The cable car was just leaving the station turnabout on its way down. There was no time for hesitation. Louisa leapt inside, landing on all fours. I caught hold of the rails either side of the door, just as the car lifted away from the platform. Then I pulled myself up and slammed the door behind me, having a sigh of relief. Louisa was still gasping on the floor of the car. "You made it," she said between breaths. "I can't believe you made it. Do you think she saw us?" "I don't know, but let's keep our heads down anyway." Louisa clambered onto the bench at the back of the car and peered out of the glass. "I don't see her, but she can't be far." "There's no way to speed it up." "I know," Louisa replied irritably. "Look, Smith, she's reached the station." The Fräulein could have had us that moment, Aubrey. If she hadn't have been blinded by hatred, she might have realized she could have stopped the cable car's winch or thrown a switch to reverse its direction. But the Fräulein didn't do either of those things. Instead, she got into the car behind us. Louisa began to laugh. I couldn't help laughing too. I tried to imagine a chase scene like this one in a moving picture and failed. It put the audience to sleep. I had a nice vision of taking this girl to the cinema, Aubrey, and staying very awake. Our car was 3 minutes in front of the Fräulein's. Both were 40 feet up in the air. There was nothing to do but wait. We swung slowly and stately. 15 minutes later, we reached the Eggeshorn interchange station and jumped from the car. Then we set about sabotaging her approach. "We need something to jam the wheel," Louisa shouted, "and quickly." The whole place was automated. The wheel was spoked and turned within a snug, well-oiled metal channel. I pulled out the Fräulein's gun. "Can't shoot through the cable," Louisa complained. "You're not William Tell." "I don't need to," I replied, and thrust the muzzle of the gun into the narrow channel. The wheel sucked it in, and then began grinding down on top of it. The machinery sparked and groaned. And then, beautifully, it stuck. The Fräulein's car swung to a halt. She was in mid-air, some 50 feet above the top of a tree. Her silhouette inside the car froze. Then the door slid open, and the Fräulein began yelling German expletives at us at the top of her lungs. It was hard not to enjoy the Fräulein's predicament. Louisa and I stood together, enjoying the view for a while. "You look so cross and so small," Louisa remarked, "like an angry little beetle." The second cable car gently swayed us down the mountainside. It was like being in a floating cradle. We sat in silence for a time. "I'm so happy I got to drive a snowmobile," Louisa enthused. "My uncle will be so happy when I tell him. He taught me, you see." "How are you holding up?" I asked. Louisa shrugged. "Well enough, I suppose. I haven't stopped to find out." Suddenly, Louisa yelped and pressed her face to the glass. "Shut up, Paul! What is that?" I looked down. Splashes of color. A chessboard in rainbow hue. Blues, reds, greens, whites. It was as though someone had spread out a woolen kilt over the valley floor. Perhaps it's some sort of festival? Perhaps, she replied doubtful. Whatever the shapes were, there were people milling around them, working by the look of them. I leave it here for now, Aubrey, to give you a chance to solve this puzzle. Can you guess the delightful surprise that was waiting for us at the bottom of the cable line? Balloons. Hot air balloons, to be precise. We had somehow stumbled into the middle of the Fish Festival of Hot Air Balloonery. How do you feel about heights? Louisa looked at the cable car that was now drifting back up the slope, high above the trees. That'll be fine, let's go! We raced down the track from the cable car station, then hopped the fence into a field where the first of the balloons was laid out. The burner was on and the balloon was starting to fill. We approached its owner. He was sitting on the grass beside the basket, smoking a pipe. I'll pay you 100 francs for the balloon. The man sucked at his pipe. You English tourists, he said, shaking his head. You think you can turn up to the festival without a balloon and just buy one of ours? Quickly, man, we are escaping from the Nazis. Nazis? The man jumped to his feet. I despise the Nazis. It was a good thought, Herr Gaspar. He helped us both into the basket of his balloon without further ado. I glanced back up at the mountainside. Perhaps the Fräulein was still stuck in mid-air, higher up. If not, she would be on her way down. She would have no qualms about putting a bullet in our heads, or one in our balloon. And the balloon was still inflating. I took a moment to shake the balloonist's hand. My name is Smith, this is Louisa. I'm very pleased to meet you both. He gave a stiff little bow. I'm Herr Gaspar, and this is my most wondrous balloon. I call her Gertie. I do hope you are not afraid of heights. A hot air balloon, Aubrey, is a magical thing. The ground below just gives up on you. Gravity lets go, and the earth drifts away. First an inch, then a yard, then up and up. The cable car had reached the ground. I saw a limping figure emerge. Bless the Fräulein. She shook her little fist up at us as we left her behind. We're free! Louisa cried out at the sky. We're free! I put my arm around her waist to steady her, Aubrey, in case she leaned too far over the edge of the basket. But I don't think she minded. We are really free of her now, she breathed, still gazing out at the view. Free. Blue-green with white peaks, the Alps spread like a frozen sea below us. The Alps glacier was a long stripe, dotted with detritus from the bunker explosion. Louisa pointed out the observatory, winking like a jewel. Then the long, curved valley of Ambri. I hope Papa is all right. Try not to worry. Not much use up here, I suppose, she agreed. The world looks so very small from up here, doesn't it? It's a pity we have to fight over it. We drifted on, soaring even higher. You've checked he's not hanging onto the ballast ropes? I've checked. I wouldn't put it past her. I wouldn't either. She's not there. I'm going to check myself. Gaspar leaned out over the side and spat. He watched the spittle fall, then nodded. A good northeast current. I will take us down. What did you tell them, Louisa? Did you tell them anything? I told them I didn't know anything, she replied, but she didn't believe me. If you hadn't have come, I think she'd still be asking me over and over, she shuddered. The winds carried us on. The sun was touching the mountains to the west, spreading honey across snow-capped peaks. The view was beautiful, Louisa enthused. It's as good as in a painting. You should take a photograph of it. She looked at me, perplexed. I tapped my forehead. Oh, said Louisa, then laughed. Well, I already have. I let her point out the details to me as we went. A snowy peak here, a distant waterfall there, that sort of thing. I saw it all for the first time again, through her eyes. We floated onwards. And then, Aubrey, the mountains were quite suddenly gone. We were flying over farmland and low country. I was set us down by the Zürichsee, Gaspar said. There's a place I know, beside the water. A lake? I like lakes, Louisa said. The balloon settled to the earth on a patch of empty land for spitting distance of the water's edge. It was a low, rocky outcrop jutting out to the lake. A cozy log cabin was built above it, on stilts that rose from the reeds. This is my aunt's guest house, Herr Gaspar said. You should stay here. She makes excellent fondue. I simply nodded. Yeah, the art style is great, Eric. It really comes all very nice together, and I already have a lot of ideas to replicate the style in my journal about it, like, you know, the postcards and the maps in between and the stamps. Like, you know, the whole text is us writing a postcard or a letter back to our, I think a friend in the spy agency or something. Okay, back to the to the text. Louisa kissed him on both cheeks. Louisa kissed him on both cheeks, out of gratitude, but probably also from sheer relief. Your balloon is beautiful, she gushed, and the man glowed with pride. Then we scrambled out of the basket, and all but fell onto the grass. The ground feels very strange, Louisa exclaimed. Once you've been a bird, Gaspar observed, pulling out his pipe to light it. Why would you be anything else? Perhaps if we were birds, Aubrey, we would see nations for the fictions they really are. From the sky we'd see only rivers and mountains, not borders and checkpoints. Perhaps one day, people will routinely fly about in balloons and aeroplanes, and the divisions between peoples will become a distant memory. I went to find Gaspar's aunt to talk to her about a room. There was a little jetty in front of the cabin. We were sitting together, looking out over the lake. Stars filled the sky and flooded the surface of the water. Louisa had her arms hugged around her knees. She told me she would kill me. I said nothing, just sat by her side. She spoke quietly. Well, what could I tell her? She wouldn't have understood what made the transmitter special anyway, she shivered. I tried to tell her she had it wrong, that it was all a mistake, but she just kept threatening me and asking the same questions over and over, like a machine. It was nothing personal. I was remembering what Control had said, Aubrey, if you recall it. That the up there may be better resourced, but their agents only think in railway lines. They're no match for our corkscrew method. You're quite mad, Louisa said, seeming to agree. They believe in fairy tales, in master plans, but they are just bodies, a trail of bodies everywhere they go. The words drifted across the lake and disappeared. I'm cold, Smith. We should go inside. No, I don't want to. She turned to glare at me with hot, angry eyes. Tell me something, Smith. Would you say you were a good man? A man of honor? I would say so, yes. Hold me. So I held her, and she cried. Then, when she had finished crying, we just sat there and looked up at the stars. Thank you, she whispered. Newspaper. War tipped to be over by Christmas. As British warplanes from German naval targets, some experts predict a swift end to German aggression on the continent. It is expected that conflict on the scale of the years-long Great War of 1940 may be avoided through decisive and rapid military action. Helga's boss aunt Helga had a car that had once belonged to her husband. She was happy for us to use it. Aunt Helga clasped our hands in turn as we left. Newlyweds, she sniffed, her eyes moist. In such a dark and difficult days. She waved a handkerchief as we drove away. It was early morning, still dark. Louisa twisted in her seat to wave back until we were out of sight. I think we fooled her, she concluded. Yes, we were very convincing, I smiled back. The road followed the lake shore into the city. This is the road to Zurich, Louisa remarked. You sure this is where you want to go? Papa's waiting for me there, she replied. Remember? I had almost forgotten about her father. Now that Louisa was safe, perhaps he was the only protection she'd need from now on. Aubrey, I shall miss this curious girl and her marvelous mind. I found myself driving slowly. I was not relishing in dressing down from control, amongst other things. But Louisa's journey was at an end. She was eager to reach Zurich, and could talk of little but seeing her father. I hope he's not too sore. He'll have been well enough to take the train to Zurich, won't he? We'll know soon enough. The fact was, we were already there. We were passing through the suburbs of Zurich, built up along the lakefront. The scent of flowers and horse dung was fading away in the fumes of cars and coffee. From the Alps we had emerged back into what some call civilization. But I don't know what I call it anymore. Europe is at war. We checked into the Hotel St. Augustine under the name of Mr. and Mrs. Alling. I liked the feel of signing at Aubrey. Louisa held my arm while I held the pen. We signed together. The porter showed us to our room. I gave him a franc, and he backed out with a smile. Louisa was already inspecting the contents of the room, from the embroidered lampshades by the bed to the hotel stationery on the desk in the corner. I've never been in a real hotel like this before. No, I can't imagine that she had. A restaurateur's daughter. Summer had ended somewhere in the mountains, and the September air blowing in from the lake was cold. After inspecting the curtains, Louisa pushed the window shut. So, what do we do now? Stay put for now until I've scouted the area. Openly walking around the streets of Zurich would be too risky for her. Alright then, she sighed. But perhaps we might go out for a drink? Later, I mean? Maybe with your father once I've located him. She smiled. Then I hope you find him soon. I put my hat on. I'll be back within the hour, I should think. I paused a moment to look at her through the open door as I left the room. My Mrs. Elling, sprawled on the bed, shoes dangling from her toes, low sunlight streaming in around her. A moment of perfect beauty. The same feeling as I'd had in the hot balloon, the ground falling away, my heart lifting towards soft clouds. Getting myself picked up by the local police was simple enough. I'm fairly sure I even recognized one of the men who nabbed me. The beer house was not as empty as the one in Rivera, but it still offered a good selection of dank corners. Ah, there you are, Smith, my friend began. Well done, old man. You've done a good job not rousing suspicion while you've been here, he remarked. Though, I can't say you've done a good job at much of anything else. I need your help with a few matters. We left the German agent in the Central Alps, but she'll be coming after us. You're worried for the Italian girl's safety. The Nazis had occupied a disused military bunker in the high Alps. Had? I blew it up. Good man. The cigarette pondered for a moment. It was time to ask. I need papers for Louisa to get her into France. You don't actually. You'll be handing her off to our boys here in Zurich. Will she talk to them, though? It's me she trusts. That's a fair point. The cigarette flared a final time. Then it was stubbed out. It's still a no from me, I'm afraid. I heard a chair scrape back. You've not proven yourself up to the task. Not from what I've seen of you. There was a real menace in his tone, Aubrey. Leave the girl here and walk away. You're done. We'll be in touch. I cannot leave them. I rode the elevator to the first floor. I wanted to use every minute I had left. I pushed open the door to the room. First thing I saw was a curtain flickering in and out of the open window in the breeze. Louisa? Nothing. I crossed to the bathroom door. My shoes crunched on something. Broken glass. The window had been smashed. There was a trace of blood near the frame. I stuck my head out into the alley. I heard the roar of an engine, the squeal of a car cornering too fast. I was out of the hotel and into a car of my own before the echoes had faded. We drove north at a breakneck pace. Reinfall. I've actually been there in real life. It's a real... I mean, all of these are real locations, obviously. But I've been there. Quick one, Aubrey. She drove north, about an hour. Then she came off the main road after Daxon. In the slower road I dropped back, wanted her to think I'd overshot. She's parked at the rainfalls, waterfall, right on the border. There's a narrow bridge behind the castle. Goes all the way into Germany. Tiny guard post, quite possibly in the pay. Can't see her. She must be near the bridge. Not sure what she's waiting for. Still persuading Louisa not to scream for help, or giving her one last chance to talk on neutral ground. I should have killed her back in Montessaneri when I had the chance. Now, here the price will be higher. Here we'll be going out together, over the edge into the water. I'll give this to a passerby. There's a few about, holding picnics at the falls. Ha! I'll see they're going to need to be sharper, quicker. It's not a gentleman's game anymore. The old ways won't win them the war. It's going to be bad, Aubrey. Worse than they're letting on. Newspaper. Happy New Year. We wish all our readers a Happy New Year as we eagerly look forward to the end of the war. For many Britons, this New Year's celebrations will be their last chance to enjoy some of their favorite foods, following an announcement of plans to expand rationing to butter, bacon and sugar. Dear Aubrey, your friend told me to write to you if anything should happen to him. I found your address inside the lining of his head, along with stamps and metal cartridges of ink. He kept the whole post office up there. He was, I think, a good man. He told me he was, but I didn't believe him at the time. He was a romantic, your friend. If he weren't a spy, I think he would have liked to be a knight, like in a fairy tale. He could be impatient. I once told him I was too tired to think, and he berated me for it. But that's alright. I berated him quite a lot as well. I think we liked that about one another. I don't know who you are, Aubrey. I assume you were his friend. So was I, in the end. He would want you to raise a glass of something in memory of him. He liked reds more than whites. He was going to start a vineyard. Did you know that? He'd already bought the land. You deserve to know how he died. He fought until the very last moment. Held that horrid woman under the water, even though it meant staying under there himself. Don't come looking for him, Aubrey. He's gone. I know you want to, but I'm asking you not to. I hope you'll understand why. I'm going to go somewhere where I can build a wine press and tend wines, as far away from the war as possible. One day I send you a case. Then you'll know I'm safe. Take care, my friend. And that's been Over the Alps. The first story anyways. It's a great sort of choose your own adventure. And it's like half a Bond movie. So I'm sure I missed a lot of classic spy references as I've not seen many Bond movies. How many stories does this game have? I'm not sure. I think it's 2. So I'll definitely play the other one next week. Hope to have you around for it. For the beginning, you just dropped in at the very end, where all the action was already over, basically. It's been quite alright. But very fun. I really enjoyed this game. And it's been about 3 or 4 hours for one story, so it's a good length. Been 4 acts. Next time I should maybe stop the stream after 1 act to pace myself better. Like I wanted to stop like 40 minutes ago to stream, but I had the feeling that the game was ending soon, but then it didn't quite end. And I think they are planning to release more stories without charging, I guess. There must be a secret message at the end here. Those letters. Some proper spy code. Very exciting. I'll have a closer look at that in research. So, here I can choose the stories, and we just played a case of the Chateau Macaulay. And then there's another one. And the third one is coming soon, whatever that means. No, basically one more. The other is just like, it's not released yet, I guess. But yeah, that's it. That's it for today. I hope I have you around for the next one. I'm excited for it. It's a shame that this postcard here, actually, it's not translated very well, you know? They say Besuch Chiasso, like, you know, visit Chiasso, but you wouldn't phrase it like that in German. You would say Besuche, not Besuch. A Besuch is like it's subject, not a verb, or rather too informal for a postcard. Yeah, but I guess the art was already done, and they can change it or something. Like, it's not completely wrong. It's not technically wrong. You could say that, but it's definitely not what would be printed on a postcard you sent home, you know? Alright, thanks for hanging with me today. And I hope you have a great day. And I'm off to bed. Bye bye.